Hi guys, I'm back again today with another reaction video, and today we're checking out the lives of Sahaba 65. Not necessarily sure what this is, but we're gonna find out. And this is going to be split into three parts, 20 to 22 minutes each part. So before we start, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell button. This is Buy Me a Coffee, and thank you for the request. And let's get it. Wait.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So inshallah ta'ala today we're going to be doing the Sahabi Salman al-Farisi. And Salman al-Farisi is one of the most intriguing of the Sahaba. I think all of us have heard of his names. And because he's so intriguing, because he's so exotic, we actually have a lot of legends and a lot of stories about him that are, Allahu Alam, probably not true. And as usual, we have a lot of scattered information about the Sahaba in general, but especially about Salman al-Farisi, we have even less information, because obviously, where did he grow up? He grew up in Iran. He grew up in the land of Faris. And so obviously we have absolutely no information about him from any source other than what he himself told of his own life later on and what he narrated to the Sahaba. But one thing that really makes Salman so intriguing and really one of the most exotic of the Sahaba isn't just his background. After all, he's the only Persian Sahabi that we know of, and so really he is speaking fluent Farsi. His lineage, his demeanor and his looks, all of it is pure Persian. It's not just that he's Persian, but the flip that happened, the very, very ironic and profound change that happened, that he grew up in the pinnacle of Persian power, seeing the glory of what is called the Sassanid Empire. And he was a citizen and a member of the Sassanid Empire at a time when no one could ever have predicted that the empire would be destroyed and wiped out. And not only did he live to see his own empire, the Persian Empire, eradicated, he was a part of the army that fought against it. He was a part of the army that fought against the Sassanids and eventually destroyed the Sassanids. And then, and to me this is one of the most profound moments of the seerah, the entire, well not the seerah, I mean the era of the Sahaba, I should say, because this happened after the death of the Sahaba. But to me, this incident more than anything represents the quick and drastic change that took place. That Salman not only radiallahu ta'ala and conquers Bilad al-Faris, Persia, he is then appointed the governor of Ctesiphon. In Arabic is called Madain, which was the capital of the Persian Empire. And he eventually passes away in that city of Ctesiphon. He passes away in Bilad al-Faris. So subhanAllah, look from where to where. Look how he began and look how he ended. And subhanAllah, the fact that this is a person who, we're not going to say he became the emperor, because there is no emperor, but he is ruling from the palace. He stayed in the palace. Where was he living? He was living in the palace of the emperor. And the palace of the emperor was where Salat al-Jum'ah is taking place. He's giving the khutbah. And that palace is still around to this day. We're going to get there inshallah next Wednesday. This is a long halaqah, obviously it's not just one. So just imagine, somebody is growing up in a land and he knows this land is the pinnacle of civilization, and lo and behold, before he dies, he becomes the ruler and the governor of that land, and he is ruling from the very bastion of power that he grew up seeing from afar but not ever seeing inside. He grew up hearing of but never actually being a part of. And now with Islam he comes in not only as a conqueror but essentially as a ruler. And as far as we know as well, he is the only Sahabi who was at one point in his life a Zoroastrian. As far as we know, from our limited knowledge of the seerah, no Sahabi in the time of the Prophet, obviously is a Sahabi in the time of the Prophet, no Sahabi was a Zoroastrian other than him. Obviously, after the Sassanid Empire is conquered, then the Zoroastrians convert en masse to Islam, and of course Iran then becomes a land of Islam, and the Zoroastrians eventually flee and leave, and they go to India, where they were called Parsis, Farisis, and to this day their descendants are there. But the point is that in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there were no Iranians. Think about it. There is no Iranian in Arabia other than Salman al-Farisi. So the only Sahabi who is of Persian blood, Persian ethnicity, speaking Farsi, and at one point in his life a Zoroastrian. Now obviously, technically, he did not convert to Islam from Zoroastrianism, as we all know, we're going to talk about today. He converted from Christianity, and there were a number of Sahaba who converted from Christianity, at least 5 or 6 that we know of that were Christian, including the most famous Adi ibn Hatim was a very famous Christian, including Addas. Remember Addas? Once upon a time we mentioned Addas. Addas is, who is Addas? Yes, the one in Ta'if who gave him the grapes, right? Addas was an Iraqi from the Banu Kalb tribe, and he converted as well. So there are a handful of Christian converts, not that many. Not that many. My guesstimate would be less than half a dozen that we know from amongst the Sahaba, meaning amongst the famous Sahaba. Obviously, we're not talking about the delegations and whatnot that came. And
I need to check what a Sahaba is. I thought we will get into that, but we never did. So I'll do it myself. Because I don't know necessary companions of the Prophet. Okay, let me write it down. Sahaba. Okay, let's continue.
Therefore, Salman al-Farsi is one of those who converts as a Christian. Now, today inshallah we'll mention half of his story, and then we'll continue next Wednesday and inshallah do some of his many hadith, because Salman al-Farsi has quite a lot of hadith, and we'll do them inshallah next Wednesday. What do we know about Salman al-Farsi pre-Islam? We only know what he himself told us, and alhamdulillah, he narrated his story in quite a lot of detail in the first person to none other than Abdullah ibn Abbas. So Abdullah ibn Abbas, being the curious young man that he is, he's absorbing all of this information. So Ibn Abbas then narrates this tradition from Salman al-Farisi, and it is recorded in 5 or 6 pages of a hadith. It's not quite a hadith per se, because it's Salman speaking, but it has the process in it. So therefore it becomes aspects of a hadith. And Salman al-Farisi is narrating his story to Abdullah ibn Abbas. This hadith is found in Musnad Imam Ahmad. It's a very long hadith, and based on this hadith, basically all of the books about Salman are written, all of the narrations come about Salman al-Farisi. So what do we know? And basically today's class I'll be going over that hadith and commenting on it. Salman al-Farisi was born in a village called G, or some say J, but most likely it is G. And he says that it is close to the city of Rama Hormuz. And Rama Hormuz, it is still around today. To this day, it is a city in modern day Iran. And there's around 80,000 people in the last census of Rama Hormuz, a small little town. And it is in the Khuzestan province of Iran. Now in one narration, he says that he is from Isfahan. And this is problematic because Isfahan is pretty far from Rama Hormuz. So how do we reconcile this? We say that perhaps he is telling somebody Isfahan means like the capital or like some large city that is known to this person, because Rama Hormuz nobody knows. So he mentions like New York or something, even though he's not from New York, because it's like at least 100 miles away. So it's not that.
It's like when somebody asks you where are you from, you say Philippines, and they're like, where in the Philippines? Obviously they wouldn't know, let's say, the specific city or province you're from, so you just give them the easiest or the one that everyone knows, and you'd be like Manila, because that's the capital, right? So I think that's the case here.
Far, but at the same time it's not in the vicinity. Allah knows best how we reconcile. But he, in the first person, he says that he is from the village of G, which is outside of the town of Rama Hormuz. And he mentions that my father was a dehqan. Dehqan is a Persian word that means landlord. Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, it's still in languages of Punjabi and whatnot.
I don't know.
Dehqan, Pashto, it's still around, right? So this goes back to ancient Persia, Dehqan, and it means landlord, right? To this day it means landlord. So this term Dehqan is very common in the books of history, Islamic history. It was a title, and it essentially is a serf lord. Okay, it's a person who owns lots of land, and he then negotiates with the people to farm, and he'll get quite a lot, and they'll get a percentage. So he gets rich, and the people work the land and whatnot. So his father was a rich man, a dehqan, from outside of this village of G, or in the village of G. And he says that my father loved me more than anything else, so much so that he would keep me in the house like little girls are kept. Means don't go outside and be a young man, just be inside like little girls are kept. So nothing else to do, I continued excelling in worshipping in the Zoroastrian religion. They were Zoroastrians, and until I became the keeper of the fire that is always kept alight, and I made sure it never went out. So his father being a rich man, and because he's not engaging in trade, he's not becoming a serviceman, he's not doing anything. So what else is he going to do? He just goes to the temple, keeps on going to the temple, until finally in the temple they make him a very prestigious person, and that is the one who is in charge of the fire. Now this isn't quite a priest. He has not gone to the training school of the priests, but it is a priestly role. It is a category that is very, very noble. And of course, in the Zoroastrian religion, you should all know, the Parsis are the only major religion in the world. The Parsis is what Indians call Zoroastrians, and they're the only remnants of Zoroastrians. In our times, really, there are no more Zoroastrians in Iran anymore. Pause here, footnote, there's a few left. But pretty much, if you meet a Zoroastrian, 99.9% of the time will be from India. Okay, and the Indians call them Parsis because they're coming from Persia, Faris, Parsi, and so they're called Parsis. To this day, they're called Parsis. So the Zoroastrian religion is one of the oldest religions of the world, and it goes back to Zarathustra, Zoroaster, and Zarathustra. It's very difficult to see what his real theology, aqidah was. Allah knows best. Was he an actual prophet of Allah? Or was he just a philosopher like Buddha or whatnot? Allah knows best. It's difficult to say. But their belief is that there are two primary gods, and they are the only religion in the world that believes in two gods. They're the only religion. Every other religion really believes in one major God. Even Hindus philosophically believe in one God, ultimate God. The only religion that really believes that there are two actual all-powerful gods is Zoroastrianism. And this makes it very atypical. And Allah knows best. Because of this, my own inclination, it seems bizarre to think that Zarathustra would have been a prophet. That's a bit too much of a deviation to go from one God to two all-powerful gods.
Obviously, I'm not going to get the context of everything because I don't know the backstory or history of a lot of what he's saying. So hopefully we slowly learn, right? Because I don't know.
And of course, they believe in the god of good, Ahura Mazda, and the god of evil, Ahriman. And this world is a battle place between Ahura Mazda and Ahriman. And judgment will come when finally Ahura Mazda conquers over Ahriman, when the god of good conquers over the god of evil. And for them, the god of good is represented by light. Light is not the god of good. The god of good is represented by light and fire. And the god of evil is represented by darkness and whatnot. It is representation, obviously, not an actual. And so when we say they worship the fire, technically this is incorrect, and a Zoroastrian would be insulted by this. They do not worship from their perspective the fire. They view it as being an embodiment of, or a representation of God. And the fire for them is a sacred element, even in the house. Even in the house, when you light a match, it is something that is a ritual or something that is a holy thing, meaning that it is something that is considered sacred. But they have a special type of fire which is used in their temples. And that fire, according to them, it goes back to the beginning of time. The fire that is found in the temples it is a fire that has been lit from the beginning of time. And so every time they open up a new temple, they will light the fire of the temple from another temple. You cannot just take a match and go like this. Okay? They will light the fire of the temple from another temple. So believe it or not, I met a Zoroastrian convert to Islam, and I asked her about this issue. I was like, how did you guys get the temple in America? So they had to commission a special plane to get a fire from a temple and bring it over here extinguished, right? And they will keep it so that it is now then going to then be used to light a fire here. And then once the fire is anywhere here, then the other temples can be used from that fire. You understand? Right? So that's the point of the fire being sacred. So Salman al-Farisi's job is to keep the eternal flame going. It's a very big job. Okay? He is in charge of that flame, the one that they think is going back all the way. So, and to this day, their temples have a permanent fire in them. To this day, that's the whole point. There's always going to be a type of fire that is going to be, I don't know the technicalities of it, but that is their theology. So, Salman al-Farsi is in charge of this. One day, he says, my father became busy in some type of project or construction in the house, and he said to me, son, you see that I'm preoccupied, so I need you to go to such and such a land to bring the rent back. Okay? Generally, Salman never did this. He was kept in the house because his father loved him so much. You can tell that he was one of those overprotective fathers, right? You can tell very, very concerned and very rich. He doesn't need his son to do it. But in this case, he goes, look, I'm really busy in this project. And obviously, when it comes to large sums of money, you can't just send an employee. You need to send flesh and blood. So he says to his son Salman that, well, obviously, we don't know his real name. That's another thing. Salman is his acquired name. One can assume that his original name was something like Salman, because when they would take their name, Salman was his name pre-Islam. Okay, pre-Islam means in Arabia. So the Arabs could call him Salman. So one can assume, and there are theories, and there's no point going down that there are a number of names given what might be a Persian equivalent to Salman. But the point is that Salman is his pre-Islamic Arab name, but not his Persian name. Clear? So the pre-Islamic Arab name is Arabicized from the Persian. So his father says to him, Salman, whatever his name was, go and collect the rent from that area, from that province, and do not be delayed. Get back before sunset, or else your delay will cause even more issues for me, for you are more beloved to me than all the property or land that I have. So he's very concerned about Salman. He wants to protect him. So Salman then goes to this other land, and he said, I happened to pass by a church, and I heard their singing. And the singing means the hymns. We all know how they sound. We all know they have a very unique way of doing their chants. Think of the Roman Catholic hymns, right? Because that's going back, that's going back all the way to that time. And they have a way of worshiping that is in its own way very eccentric and very, it does have its own sonorous element to that singing. So I heard their hymns, and I entered to the church to see what they're doing. And he ends up spending the whole day in the church.
No.
And he said, I didn't go to my father's land. I didn't go collect the rent. So much so my father sent out search parties to hunt for me. But he is now in the church. We can imagine, he doesn't say it, we can imagine he's engaging in dialogue, asking questions, absorbing all that they're doing. And he then decides to convert because he says that I felt that their way of worshipping was better than ours. Their ta'abbud means not just way of worship, but overall their religion and religiosity was better than ours. Okay, so he senses a truth in Christianity, and there is no question that Christianity is much closer to the concept of God, Akhirah, Risala than Zoroastrians from our perspective. Even modern day Christianity, how about Christianity 1,500 years ago when Salman is talking, right? So the Christianity of Salman's time is really the closest ones will get to Islam. So he appreciated it and he decided to convert. So he said to the Christians, where can I find the asl of this deen? Where's the asl of this deen? They told me Bilad al-Sham. Bilad al-Sham. Now notice here, at this stage we can assume he is a teenager, okay, because the story is just beginning. Maybe, and his father would not have sent him to collect rent unless the bare minimum is 15. Like 15 would be their hour, 18, 19. Okay, the bare minimum is 15, 16 years old. So he's now going to do this chore for his father. So at this stage, at the age of 15, 16, he's not happy simply saying, okay, let me become a Christian. He is saying, where do I go to study the asl of this deen? Like Salman is really, and this is throughout the entire story, he is a seeker of truth. He is somebody who's searching for much more than just a superficial understanding. I mean, can you imagine? Not only is it a new faith, not only he spends the whole day quizzing, interrogating, absorbing, then deciding to convert. At that stage, he says, tell me, where do I find the source and the origin? What is the asl of this deen that I can go study? So they told him Bilad al-Sham, Syria, which means Jerusalem and Damascus, all those things. Go, that's where our origin is. That's where the asl is. So when I returned home, my father rebuked me, Ya Bunay, where have you gone? Where were you? You were delayed. I told you to come back immediately. And he told his father, and this is the naivety of a teenager, thinking that his father is going to side with him no matter what he does. So he tells his father that I passed by a church, and I was entranced with their religion, and I felt that their religion is better than our religion, so I want to enter their religion. What's going to happen? Will you abandon our faith and the faith of our forefathers? Surely our faith is better than theirs. And a back and forth, Salman glosses over it. Again, we can imagine, shouting, yelling match, whatnot, until finally when his father realizes he's going to convert, then he said, my father became scared for me, and he tied me up and put an iron chain on my legs. Tied me and made me a prisoner in the house, that you're not going to go back to the church. Now, let's pause here for a second. The year we don't know exactly. However, probably one can say around the time of the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, or when the Prophet ﷺ is a young man. Okay? One of the things about Salman, we don't know his age. And lots of legends exist. Some say that he lived for 120 years. Some say 150. One even says 300 years. And Imam al-Dhahabi says, I doubt all of this. Most likely he died max 70, 75. And this is the fact that mythologies develop. And people make a small thing and make it much larger. And Salman takes on a mythical status. And subhanAllah, we don't have any indications that he was somebody who was supernaturally long in living. He seems to be an old man. So by the time the Prophet comes to Medina, he's maybe a little bit age-wise older, or maybe around the age. We don't know exactly, For sure he's not a young man, but at the time the Prophet came, he is still working in the date palms, right? Which indicates that he has physical strength to work as a manual laborer, as we're going to see. So maybe 60 years old at that time. So therefore, he is born roughly 550, let's say, earliest, to 560, which is roughly when, the Prophet is born. So around this point in time, that we can assume that he is born. So what is happening in Persia about Christianity? Very interesting point. This is not mentioned in the books of Sirah, because again, they're not looking at it the way that we or the Westerns would look at it. From our perspective, what intrigues me, what type of Christianity is Salman exposed to? In the 6th century CE, what Christianity exists in Persia? And a little bit of research indicates that in Persia, the only branch of Christianity that was flourishing was the branch that had been exiled by the mainstream Byzantine, Roman, the church which became Catholicism, okay? Call it Neo-Catholicism or Proto-Catholicism. Basically, not Neo, it's Proto, it's the original Catholicism. And that version of Christianity is called Nestorian Christianity, okay? Nestorians. And the Nestorians, by the way, believe it or not, they're still around. These days they're Iraqi Nestorians. Okay?
Never heard.
Because Iraq was Iran back then, right? Back then the province of Iraq was within Iran. And Nestorian Christianity is the earliest sect of Christianity that is still alive to this day. The earliest sect. No sect that still exists goes back before Nestorian Christianity. And they were formed 450 CE. That is 1,600 years ago. That's when Nestorianism is formed. You can't compare it with this Protestant Christianity, which is 200, 500 years old. Or even Catholic Christianity, which split from Orthodox 12th century, 10th century CE, right? So this Christianity is the earliest version of Christianity that is still around. And they have a very unique belief, which is considered to be heretical by all other sects of Christianity. They believe that Jesus Christ has two distinct natures, fully human and fully divine. So Jesus is fully human according to the Nestorians, and he is eventually fully divine. And many amongst them believed in something that was called adoptionism. Adoptionism is a Christian term that means that Jesus was normal, fully human. Then God adopted him to be his son. You can see that.
Okay, so we're gonna end part 1 here. We'll continue tomorrow. But at the beginning, I didn't really know what I was getting into, but now it makes sense. Like, we are learning about a specific person, Salman from Al-Farsi or Farsi, and he was one of the Sahaba. So there we go. Because in the beginning, the title didn't make much sense, but now I understand. And I'm low-key catching on to terms and context. So maybe in the future also other videos it will be easier for us to understand what is happening, what's going on. But I like this because it's a story. It's like he's giving us a storytelling. He's setting it up really, really nicely. But anyways, let me know what your thoughts are. If you like this video, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.